You're listening to the Men After God podcast, the show dedicated to empowering men to navigate life's challenges through the lens of faith. In this episode, we'll tackle real-world issues that matter, from leadership and personal growth to marriage, fatherhood, and balancing career and family. Join us as we explore insightful conversations and practical advice to help you thrive as a man after God's own heart.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Men After God podcast. We are joining you what should be right around the Thanksgiving time frame area. And I know if you're like me, you love turkey. You love eating all the fixins. I'm from the South, guys. And these guys, I don't think grew up in the South like I did. I grew up, it was like it was a church potluck for a family of 5. I don't understand where all the food came from, but we enjoyed it. And now, whether you're getting ready to or you already have enjoyed that, we've got a fantastic episode today talking about your physical health and fitness. And so I don't know if you want to call it guilt or conviction, but you might be about to fill one of those. Really do pray it's a blessing to you. At Men After God, we believe that living for Christ is a holistic lifestyle, meaning that we live from our identity in Jesus in all areas of our life. So as fathers, as husbands, when it comes to our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, and in doing so means we have to conduct ourselves as stewards of what God has given us. And today we are going to be focusing on the physical health aspect of things. We are here with the president, founder, CEO, and he said, I have to call him this, the czar of mind and body fitness, John Beasley. He is going to really take over today as Luke and I try to contribute as much as we can. But this guy, he's got shoulders broad enough to carry just about anything on and biceps the size of my head. And so I can't wait to hear. Not to mention, I joke with all that on a serious note. John loves Jesus, has been following him for a long time, and just is going to provide a great Christian worldview perspective on physical health today. So, John, without further ado, man, talk to us, brother.
First, I am actually from the South, just so you know. I'm a
Okay.
Virginia boy.
Yeah.
Now, that's debatable if it's the South or not, but,
I was going to say, like, I've driven Interstate 81, and I hate that place, so I don't know. I don't know if we call it the South, but yeah.
And with that, we're going to go into a discussion of we're just going to change the subject today, go right into it. No, just kidding. So,
yeah,
exactly. And the Mason-Dixon line's a little further.
Well, I mean, there might be some guys on this podcast who are like, I don't know if I respect this guy. He's not from the South.
Yeah,
but,
right? Yeah.
You know, maybe now I just created controversy, like Virginia. Like,
there it is. Good.
Not the South. Well, hey, guys, thanks for having me come on. I'm excited about having this conversation. And I think it's important. And let me just start from a spiritual context here real quick. I think when it comes to fitness, a lot of people's minds jump to that passage in Timothy where it talks about bodily exercise profiteth little. So they're just like, why spend so much time talking about something that has very little profit? And I just think it's worth noting. And as you know, a lot of you guys that are listening in, you probably have heard, maybe some of you pastors, context is everything to a statement. So when Paul made the statement that exercise profits little, it's really in contradistinction to eternity and being able to prioritize your own soul. So it's like, hey, if I exercise unto godliness, which lasts, the fruits of which could last for eternity, well, that's going to profit so much more than bodily exercise that only is as good as it is in the body, right? As long as my body's living, it could profit. But the whole eternal versus temporal is what's in view in that passage.
Right.
So he's not trying to say exercise, it means a little, but it's not that much. It's more of like in contrast to what's eternal. Yes. But one thing that I would note in the context, if you notice Paul, he uses all sorts of like athletic games all through his writings as analogous for, hey, you know how hard they work? You see how disciplined they are? He doesn't say that's bad. He's like, actually, that is exemplar of how we should be in the spiritual life in pursuit. They buffet their body in like manner. We should buffet our own bodies. We should be disciplined. And I think generally speaking, if you really look holistically, scripturally, the scripture would support being in good shape. We want to be a good steward of what we have. Our body is actually viewed as the temple of the Holy Spirit. So if you collect and you build a theology of the body and a theology of of just being a good steward and exercise, then the Bible's going to really push us to actually developing good rhythms in our life that's going to produce health and well-being. And I think even just intuitively, it just makes sense. I mean, it's common sense. Like, should I take care of my body? Yes or no? I mean, I think it's pretty common sense for us to think. But I just wanted to get that out of the way at the gate to say, there's nothing wrong with you saying, hey, I'm going to take care of my body. That is a scriptural thing to do and to think through. So how do we do that? Go
Can I
ahead,
just
Luke.
say something on that? I think you've got some great stuff. I think that it's crucial, especially in context of that passage. We've got people like even myself, where physical fitness has just never been a priority to me, partly because I didn't like it, probably because I didn't want it, I didn't think I could, whatever it is. And in the context, we need to look at it as just like some people they'll steward their time really well, they'll steward their money really well. What God has given us, even though it is a temporal body, it's still what we are a steward of, because it is something that we are going to be held accountable to when it comes to our physical, our finances, what we've done with what God gives us. We are going to whom much is given, as much to be required. But it's that context of just like, people say, well, physical fitness isn't important because Paul said it wasn't. No, he just said in light of eternity, nothing is important, as in the sense of it profited little, but it still does profit. So
Yes.
No, I think you got a great point there, Luke. And John, I know we're talking about physical fitness today, but I want to jump with nutrition for just a minute. I know you'll hit on it in a little bit. I was looking at a map the other day that was just showing expected lifespan based upon region or county or something like that. And the South was notorious for just lower life expectancy compared to other parts of the United States. And
all the
again,
sweet tea.
Hey, amen. Had some the other night. Okay. And all things good are in moderation. But we have the sweet tea. You got all the cobbler, you got all of the potluck type stuff. I mean, just all these different food types. And then there's almost a pushback against any sort of health food talk. And there's a number of places that could come from. So we'll jump into that later. But I just wanted to highlight that while the physical fitness is there, man, that nutrition piece, I think, plays a major role as well. So I can't wait to hear you talk more about that when we get to it.
Yeah. So let me just jump into what I consider. Now, you could nuance this more. I'm sure you could say there's 10, there's 9, there's 8, but I have 8 rhythms that I use in my coaching for well-being. And again, you can break these into subcategories and make it more. But I think these 8 categories are really essential categories for establishing well-being. If you're missing any of these, you're actually going to have some issues. So all of these are what I would call or consider fundamental to keeping the, if you want to say just the key rhythms of actually pursuing well-being. And here are the 8. I want to just get them out of the way. And so if you just I want to hear all of these, and then we're going to kind of unpack them probably quickly just in this episode. We'll probably do future episodes where we dive into deeper with each one. But 1 is training, 2 is nutrition, 3 is sleep or sleep protocols, 4 is hydration, 5 is what I call nature, 6 is mindfulness, or you can use scriptural language like meditation, 7 is accountability, and 8 is education. So I want to just dive through these. The first 3 are going to be your 3 primary movers. You have training, nutrition, and sleep. And you probably seen the whole shirts, they train, eat, recover. Have you ever seen those shirts like that?
Yeah.
We're going to have a ton of swag, Dustin. We're going to get a ton of swag in this.
Absolutely. I got to get Levi creating our merch. We're going to get our store up soon.
Yeah. But that train, eat would be obviously in the context of nutrition. Recovery, the primary mover for recovery is sleep. These are really the 3 primary movers. And it's funny because so many people run for what's the hack, what's the hack that I could find, some type of, whether it's a pill or some type of secret formula. And the truth is the sooner you can get over trying to find the hack and you realize that actually I just need to do the hard thing. And that's, I'm going to train. I'm going to figure out how to do nutrition that works for me, that's sustainable. You don't have to do chicken, broccoli, and rice, every single day to get in shape. You can figure out what works for you. But if you can figure out your macronutrients, which we'll dive into, and you can dial in your sleep, if you get those 3 big movers into place. All the rest of these are important, but they would be secondary movers as opposed to what I would consider primary movers. So I just wanted to dive into a couple of these, and I thought we'd just start off with talking about training. And when it comes to training, the big thing that you're trying to accomplish with training, you could put it in 2 categories. You have people that like talk about lifting weights, and then they talk about cardio. But the big thing for lifting weights and resistance training is you're trying to preserve or build muscle. And many people talk about like, I don't really want to build muscle. I just want to get toned. But if you're getting toned, you're getting muscle. You're either working towards hypertrophy or atrophy. There's like no in between. There is no like toned. You're either building muscle or you're not. And so the goal of training is really to build that muscle. Cardio is obviously you're trying to strengthen your lung capacity and your heart. A lot of people will kind of put cardio into, I do cardio to lose weight. Cardio is not really that great of a mover when it comes to losing weight. That shouldn't be the primary reason you do cardio. You do cardio, but as the word suggests, it's designed to strengthen your cardiovascular system, so your heart, your lungs, in a sense, some of your nerves, but that's what it's designed to strengthen. Now, when you do cardio, you can burn calories, energy expenditure, and it can result in losing weight. But if you're still out eating your cardio, you're not going to lose weight. Cardio doesn't make you lose weight necessarily, and sweating more doesn't make you lose weight. And these are some of the ways we think about training. They're like, man, if I just go and break a sweat, it's like, no. You need to figure out, and this is where I think we should dive into just a little bit, is you need to figure out energy balance.
Okay.
So let me just describe what I mean by energy balance real quick. So you have energy coming in by way of food, nutrition, and you might not know this, but you actually don't eat calories. I'm going to pause there. Let that sink in. You don't eat calories.
But on my McDonald's menu tells me how many calories my Big Mac has. So
exactly.
Hang on.
So calories is only a measurement of energy. What you're eating is a combination of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. Those each have a caloric value. So every gram of fat is 9 calories. Every gram of carb is 4 calories. Every gram of protein is 4 calories. And so everything you eat has kind of like a breakdown of those macronutrients. So you're eating proteins, carbs, and fats. They have a caloric value to it. And that caloric value tells you how much energy you're consuming. If you are consuming more energy than your body is able to expel or expend, then you're going to be gaining weight. If they match, you're going to maintain weight. And obviously, if you're eating more, let me reverse that. If you're eating less and you're doing more energy expenditure, then you're going to lose weight. Does that make sense? So that is actually fundamental to the process. Now, there is some things that play into it, which I'll get into. But it's really important that whatever your goal is when it comes to your fitness, you figure out this energy equation. And for most probably listening in, you're like, oh man, it's the holidays. I just went through Halloween. I had a lot of Halloween candy or something like that. And you're like, man, I want to lose some weight. The way to do that is you want to figure out, okay, I want to make sure that I'm eating fewer calories than I'm expending. So that means you need to dial in or understand how your energy expenditure works. There's only 4 ways your body gets rid of energy, okay? The first one has to do with your metabolic rate. Now, this is just your body keeping the lights on, okay? And it accounts for about 60% of all the energy that you expend in a day. Are you guys still tracking with me?
Yeah, man, I got you.
Okay. So 60% of all the energy that you expend on that day, that's your metabolic rate. And I can, and maybe in another session, I could talk about how to discover your actual metabolic rate. But once you discover that, and by the way, your metabolism can improve and it also can regulate to go slower based on the foods you eat, based on the activity that you're in, the more active that you are, and the more, like, if you eat high protein and you're eating good foods, the more higher your metabolism is going to be. But I will say this: you'll hear people, they're like fear mongers. They'll say, "Oh, the reason why you're not losing weight is your metabolism is broken or it's crashed." Now, I just want to tell you, if your metabolism is broken and crashed, you are dead. You can't live with a crashed metabolism. Okay.
Yeah.
More scientifically, what happens is that your metabolism regulates based on a lower energy expenditure. In other words, you're not very active, and you're not feeding your body enough raw material, enough nutrition. So your body says, okay, let's burn fewer calories because, one, they're not active and they're not eating enough good foods. So it makes it more difficult for someone to lose weight when their metabolism is slowed to that point. The
You know what I
only
love,
way
John,
out.
is that you've.
Go ahead.
Go. Okay, I was going to say, well, before you went on with that, because I think you're going to go to how to change your metabolism there. But I want to say what I love with everything I'm hearing is you haven't given a prescription of training yet. Like you're talking about training, you're talking about these different things and how to change all that. There's no prescription of training, but the one thing you said is, what is your goal? And that's what determines what the training is. And this is where, we don't believe Christianity's cookie cutter. Your training's probably not going to be cookie cutter.
No.
And it's going to be based on your goals. And you see these guys on Instagram and various different places doing different things. You got bodybuilders, you've got some guys running marathons, you've got some people, rowing crew or whatever it might be. Their training is completely different based on their goal. And, for me, when I first started working out, which I haven't done as much as I need to, I know, guys, I'm getting back to it. But I was going pretty regularly there for over 9 months or so. And I was getting big. And I told my trainer, he asked me, so what's your goal? You have like a goal weight? And I said, well, The Rock or Vin Diesel. Either one of those two is kind of what I'm shooting for. So at 5'8", we'll just see which one I can kind of come up with there. But I know I love the fact that it's just individualized. It's not about like you're going in and benching 400 pounds or doing everything. You're individualizing the training specific to the person's goals, and then even further into where they're at in their journey. Because Luke, you mentioned before, like you're someone who's not, it's never been that important to you, or for whatever reason. You're going to start at a different place than I am when it comes to working out. Is working out, you mentioned, I don't know if you've ever done it consistently before, but has it ever been a part of your life, or just something that, kind of waned? Or
Yeah, it's funny because I'm listening to this and I'm listening to what John's saying through the excuses or the preconceived ideas of the stories I've told myself for years of why I haven't. I grew up on a farm.
Remember that conviction? Luke just felt it. There it is.
So I grew up on a farm. So growing up on a farm, we did physical fitness. We counted how many rows of bales we could buck a hay bale up onto the tractor and stuff, and then doing construction. So it kind of came this like, well, I work out for a living. I do physical work, but I haven't for the last 13 years. I haven't done physical work. haven't done any work. Just kidding.
Hey, those mouse clicks really hurt. Okay.
Yes. And so I think that, for me, when my wife passed away last year, there was several things I made a commitment to myself. And one of the things was, if I know that I should do it, and if I physically can do it, I have to do it, even especially if I tell myself I don't want to do it. And so several times, and I had a couple of people in my life that found out about that. And they're like, oh, so you don't want to go running? You should go running. It was like this, like, and because the commitment I'd made, like, no, I'm going to do it. So for me, and I was listening to this, like, John seems like it's so much out of reach. Like, well, I can't do the whole gym thing. And this is like so much. Well, I did start doing pull-ups and push-ups. And I started with 5 a day because that's what I could do. And now I got a lot more now, but the amount of physical energy that I have just by doing what little I could do with where I was at within schedule and stuff. So now I do more of a routine and a discipline thing. But for years, it was just, there were stories, and I had health issues. I had all these reasons why I wouldn't, but most of them were the story that I tell myself, not a valid reason of why I should or shouldn't. And so there's a lot that I'm picking up here. Like, man, this is good stuff you get this preconceived idea. Well, if I just break a sweat, I'm going to lose weight. Well, now I know. So
might be a little bit more to it.
Yeah. I think what you guys are saying is great. Like, as a coach and as a trainer, is like, if I can get you to move and you enjoy it, let's keep doing more of that. Like, if you don't like to, if you enjoy powerlifting, great. If that's helping you move. Others people are like, I do not want to get under a crazy heavy bar. And like, I'm not playing that game. I don't have that ego to stroke. I don't care how much I can bench or whatever. If somebody, it's like, that's totally fine. Let's just get you moving. Now we can refine how to get better results for whatever your goals are. What kind of movement can change things, you know? But first, it's like, let's just get you moving a ton. And that could just start with like, hey, I'm going to get my steps in. I'm going to walk a lot, and I'm going to dial my nutrition in, and I'm going to walk a lot. If you did those two things, I'm telling you, you're going to have a huge, huge change to your overall health just by moving and getting nutrition in.
Yeah.
But there are some other things there just to kind of like come full circle. I know I'm elaborating a lot on this energy part, but once you figure out energy intake, and then you realize there's only 4 ways that my body expends energy: metabolic rate. The second thing would be like, and here's kind of a fancy term. It's non-exercise adaptive thermogenesis. Now, Dustin, if you memorize that, you sound intelligent. So just memorize that, okay?
And
But
here I thought getting a doctor would make it. Nope,
What-
I need to memorize that word.
What if he does it though? Memorizing is good, but what if he does it?
Hey, Luke, you're the one that said you were doing the stuff you didn't want to do, not me. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
right,
This is
that's
your
right.
commitment.
But so it's a huge fancy word that stands for like movement that's non-exercise. So like if you're a fidgeter, or you can't sit still, like you're wiggling your legs. A lot of people that say, oh, that person never gains weight, they must have a high metabolism. They might, but actually it might be because they have a higher adaptive thermogenesis. They're like, just when they talk, they're very expressive. When somebody comes to the door, they jump up and run to the door. When they're sitting, they can't hardly sit still. They're going to burn more calories than someone who just doesn't move very much at all, or just very still, generally speaking. So this is what I like to tell clients. Like, hey, once you find out your metabolism rate, where it's at, another way that you can improve burning more calories is just actually moving with a purpose. Because when you start to cut calories to lose weight, your body tries to do things to get you to expend less energy, or it'll increase your hunger, so you'll eat more. So you're like, oh man, I just worked out really hard and ran. I'm gonna go get that burger and fries and milkshake. It adapts to.
Now you're talking my language.
Yeah, exactly. So just like, man, I need a reward or whatever. And then you end up like all the calories that you burn, you've far exceeded it with your food. And some people like, well, I tried the workout thing and I just never lost weight. Well, it's probably because your body is adapting to, whoa, look at this energy expenditure. We need more intake. But if you have awareness of, here's what I need to intake, and I need to really stick to this with discipline, and you slowly increase your energy expenditure, you're going to be losing weight and your body composition is going to change. But the problem is we live in a society that's always looking for the hack. So we never stick to anything for very long. So we're like, a couple weeks here, doesn't work. Let's try something different. I'm going to try, back in the day, it was like P90X, or I'm going to do Insanity, or I'm going to, whatever it was. There was some.
I have done both of those.
Which, by the way,
and
not bad programs.
I was going to say, no, they're not. I did them. I was actually in Afghanistan, and I had access to those. And I was doing P90X when I got up, and Insanity when I got up, and P90X before I went to bed. And I had nothing else going on, right? And I was an air traffic controller. I wasn't like going out and doing, grunt work and stuff like that. So, I did that for one of my deployments, and that was intense. But the problem I had, John, was the nutrition piece. So I love how you're focusing on what a main problem a lot of people have is they're wanting to lose weight and stuff. But a lot of guys, they're like me, and they want to look like Dwayne The Rock Johnson walking in, so their wife looks at them and goes, "Hey, baby," and that's just not happening in my life right now. So pray for me. But doing that, what I found is, it was the opposite of what you're talking about, because I'm not trying to lose weight, I'm trying to gain. So now I'm actually having to bring in a ton of food in order to gain muscle mass. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but and then I found myself eating so much more than I was before, but I was eating the right foods. And that is what changed it for me and allowed me to be able to work out to the place I was actually growing in muscle and not just getting fluffier.
Right. So the reason why the right kinds of food is important is a couple reasons. And this actually plays into the energy conversation, because there's the thermic effect of food. So like when you eat whole foods, like proteins or like food that's like high in fiber, your body takes more energy to convert that to energy in the body. As opposed to if you go to Dunkin' and you get a donut, that converts to energy really fast. It's like a very simple carbohydrate. But it doesn't last very long in the body. Like it burns out quick. There's not a whole lot of nutritional value to it. So it signals to the body, like whatever you just ate, eat more of it, because it's not lasting very long. So it's a donut, it's higher in calorie, it's more palatable, and your body's like, it's not going to last long, so you need to eat more of it. This is what plays into the epidemic of obesity, because we eat a lot of highly palatable foods, and we could just eat a ton of it. Like, I mean, can't you guys eat like a whole dozen of donuts? I mean, come on, you could.
It's chips for me, man.
Dude, it's
I
easy.
will dominate a bag of chips. I
Yes.
mean, one sitting, I won't blink twice.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's sad, but
Yeah.
it's so good.
It feels
so
a little
good.
manly too. I mean, just like dominating that.
yeah. Well, it would if I didn't get like the gluten-free chips, which make me feel better about it. But at the same time, yeah, I do. I pound them all. Luke, what's your go-to if you're about to just have to repent when you're done eating food? What's your go-to?
It's everything. Like I wish it was just one thing. Like for me, I am like notorious for like, if I get hungry, I'm like, I'm gonna go find something and feed the kids something as a snack. So I'm gonna heat up some fries. I'm gonna make something in the oven.
Yeah.
But
Feed
it's
the
kids.
Yeah.
We portion it like no. I was just making sure it's real clear. It's very like, I'm hungry. I'm gonna feed them. I'm gonna give them a little. Here's a dabble for you. Here's one for you, one for me, one for you, one for me, one for me. Like that's my thing.
And 10 for
me.
me.
It's
man.
10 for me. Yeah, for me it's soda. Like it's a drink. It's always it's a sugar beverage. That's where my go to is always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking up, John, I found some stats that I wanted to bring to this, especially with bringing our faith into this and our nutrition and stuff. I love how you brought in, and we've talked about, like, it's about stewarding what God has given us, our health, our physical health, all of it. First I'll say, Gary Brecka, a guy I followed, and, some people say pseudoscience, all this stuff. What I found is if you hear it online, it's absolutely true. So I don't understand why anybody questions that. But, and for those that don't get sarcasm, that was an example of it. But anyways, he's got some great points out there on some things. And he was just talking about how, oh man, lost my train of thought there. Nonetheless, where I was going with the religious side of it is that whenever we adopt a faith-based diet, the studies are showing that 80% of people who make a change in their diet based upon their faith report long-term adherence, especially if they integrate them into daily spiritual practices. Now, this is on the American Journal of Health Promotion. So while the Christianity doesn't have, strict diets, I know we've got examples of the Daniel diet and these different things that are out there and things. When we make the decision to get fit or to eat better, not because of losing weight, not because of, getting toned or all this, but because of my faith in Jesus. And we see that to deny our bodies the nutrition, the training, the things it needs to operate well for him, it changes our entire approach to it. And it's honestly what helped me to adopt much better habits. Now, listen, I'm not telling guys that, hey, I'm not telling you can't have a bag of chips every now and then. I'm not telling you can't have a piece of chocolate or a soda or something. I love how John teaches things. Like it's what works best for you and doing things in moderation. Are there better options than Pepsi? Absolutely. Could you have one every now and then? Sure. Now, if you're a person that can't control that, then maybe you shouldn't have it at all. But again, you got to know you, and working with a guy like John really helps you do that.
So this is a good segue, and I think this would be really practical when it comes to like the nutrition piece. And when you comes to this energy thing, it's the crossway between like nutrition in, but then energy out. That's going to involve training, right? So the reason why we're doing the kind of training that we're doing or thinking about and eating the way we are is all about the energy conversation. But when it comes to like what you need to eat, most people think, oh, if I'm going to lose weight, then I can only eat like really highly nutritional foods and everything else is off the table. Like what you just said, Dustin, they'd be like, oh no, like if I'm going to pursue health or, have any type of integrity there, then I need to get rid of all this stuff and never touch it again, ever. And some people will be like, some people will be that way with carbohydrates. They like look at carbohydrates as like being the enemy, like get rid of, lose the wheat, lose the weight, all that kind of stuff. there is definitely something to say about how food is being processed today in a hyper fashion. But I will tell you this. There was a guy, he's a professor. I could share this study, but he did something called the Twinkie experiment. Have you heard of this?
No, of
Yeah,
course Luke has. Like, oh, Twinkies? Yeah, yeah.
yes. I think I was a part of it. Just kidding. No, I have heard of it, but I don't remember it. So
Okay.
I want to hear it again.
So, and let me finish this all the way through, so it doesn't sound like I'm saying that you should go do this Twinkie thing. But basically, he said it was a professor of nutrition who basically said, "Hey, do you guys think that I could lose 30 pounds by only eating Twinkies?" And they're like, no. So he did it, and I think it might have been just Twinkies, but it might have been, he called it the Twinkie diet, but it was like things from 7-Eleven, like snack foods like that. And he ate all this type of stuff for a certain amount of days, and he lost weight. But here's the significant thing: he not only lost weight, but because he lost the weight, all of his health markers improved. But he was only eating this type of food. And you're like, oh my goodness. And some of you guys are getting way excited. You're like, yes, this is the diet.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
here's the thing. Long term, I guarantee if he stayed on it longer, he did end up losing like 30 pounds, but he did lose a lot of muscle mass because he didn't have enough protein in his diet. So metabolically, it didn't set him up for good long-term success. But it initially, hit all of his stats when it comes to like his blood pressure. But all of that changed because he lost the weight. And he was just, if you're going to lose that much weight, then he had to be in a caloric deficit. So he was eating less energy. He lost the weight. His health markers changed. So if you want to change your health, it comes down to really two factors: gaining muscle, which is you're going to be more metabolically healthy, and losing adipose tissue. Um, and you can do that with a diet that's kind of subpar. In other words, your macronutrients aren't perfect, but you still lost weight. Now, again, if you want to maximize gaining muscle, you want to have higher proteins. But the study shows, though, here's a guy who was able to lose weight and his health markers change, and it wasn't anywhere close to the ideal. So what does this mean? This means that if you, generally speaking, learn macronutrients, like you learn like, hey, I'm generally hitting my protein goals, I'm getting good healthy fats and good healthy carbohydrates, but I include the fun foods that help me sustain this diet, and you could do that long term, you're going to change your body composition. You are going to become a healthier person. So instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater type idea and just saying it's all or nothing, like I either have to do chicken, broccoli, or rice, or I can't do any of it, then,
Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing here, like, because there's so much value you just gave, and based on just the first three, and I know there's several more, right? But I think what I just heard was we do not have to wait until it's perfect to get started. We have to get started with where we're at to balance out well, everyone look at it, but I think for me and for a lot of the people that I've talked to of where their struggles are, maybe they try it and they quit, or they just don't start, is because they want everything to be perfect. They want to have the workout gym in the garage. They want to have the fridge full of the right foods. They want to have the whatever that is, and I think a lot of times we get so stuck on not doing what we can do because there's so much that we feel like we can't do. So don't let what you can't do stop you from doing what you should do based on what you have. I know, like, the next thing is like, going into the hydro, that aspect of it. And I think that a lot of us, for me, if I want to get healthy, I start with increasing my water, which makes me decrease a lot of the other things I shouldn't be consuming, whether it be soda or just being more hungry because I want snacks. But just looking at like, hey, what's the little adjustment that I can make right now today without having to wait until I want to wait until January 1st because then I'll be ready for it. No, you're never going to be ready for it. So.
Absolutely.
Yes. That's fantastic, Luke. I really like that. So I know that like our time we're getting close to the end of this episode, so I want to make sure that we're like keeping things moving well. But when it comes to just to tie up the nutrition aspect of it, here's a couple of rules that will help guide you. If you could figure out like what your body weight would be, like lean body mass, like where you would be for for a man between like 10 and 15% body fat, somewhere in there. If you could figure out what that is, then if you can get a gram per pound of lean body mass every single day, protein. It doesn't have to be like super clean protein. Just get the protein in. You're getting sufficient amount of protein to maintain and maybe even build muscle. So that's a win. To maintain good cognitive function and hormone production, you need at least 0.4 to 0.7. 0.4 would be the lower end, 0.7 would be the higher end. But you can go past that if you want to. A ketogenic diet is fine if you want to go higher. But between 0.4 and 0.7 grams of fat per pound of lean body mass. And then once you find out your caloric budget, like if you're in a deficit, maintenance, or a surplus, you can backfill the rest of your calories with as many healthy carbohydrates or maybe some unhealthy carbohydrates, but you can backfill that in and be fine. Mr. Olympia, who was C-Bum, I don't know if you guys follow bodybuilding, I'm not
I don't need to feel worse about how I look, so no, I don't.
Well, they're not always that healthy, though. Like if you're talking about health, it's not always the healthiest way to go. But I will say this, they definitely are disciplined when it comes to nutrition and training. There's no doubt about that. They may add some other things to the mix, like, anabolic steroids, but they're training hard. They're really disciplined. But Chris Bumstead he'll do like his proteins, and just because he likes something sweet, he'll do his carbohydrates sometimes with cookies. He'll do some cookies in his carbohydrates before his competition, before he's stepping on stage. Like the guy's ripped to the bone, and he's still like eating like cookies and
pounded Oreos in the back.
So what am I saying? Like you should eat cookies? No, that's not what I'm saying. You could.
No, that's what I heard, John. I'm eating cookies.
My point is,
I already clipped it, just so you know.
My point is that people create dogma around the subject, and they're like, the only way is to like never have any sweets and never do any cheats. And I'm saying, for most people, that's not sustainable. Like and plus, it's totally fine to like enjoy life and enjoy these foods. And if you eat a cookie, you're not going to get unhealthy. It's the overconsumption of these things, being in a caloric surplus, adding adipose tissue, that's where you're starting to have health risks. But if you eat within your budget and you're not gaining adipose tissue, then it's really not going to affect your overall health, especially if you're maintaining that like good muscle mass. Now, again, keep everything in balance here. This is in the context of you're getting enough protein, you're getting enough healthy fats, and then you're backfilling the rest of your calories with good healthy carbs generally, which will make you feel good. For those who are listening in, if you do that, you're going to have your nutrition pretty well dialed in. Now, there's a whole micronutrient conversation that we could have later, but most people don't have their macros dialed in, so micros would be another conversation for sure. As far as
training, what I found, John?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hang on. I was actually going to try to segue us into our next one there, because what you're talking about, the training, the nutrition, when we get those things dialed in and we're eating well, we're taking care of our bodies, and we're engaged in the physical activity, there are so many health benefits that are not just, in the physical structure of our body, but a clearer mind. I know I saw brain fog reduce greatly whenever I would participate in these things and eat the proper foods and hydrate myself well. And then one of the ones, this is something my wife definitely talks about. And so, guys, if your wives are having an issue with this is a conversation to have. Have it delicately, but have it. And it was her sleep. And I know for me, I can sleep much better if I have taken care of the food. My gut is working well. And then again, I'm taking care of myself. But then good sleep is actually supporting my own muscle growth and my recovery and things of that nature. Is that right, John?
Yes. So if you think about this in a really clear, like domino effect here, if you train really hard, like some good resistance training, particularly, it's like you hit the first domino. Your body is automatically going to be craving a couple of things, but one of which is going to be nutrition. So you feed your body with good nutrition. You're giving your body the necessary raw material. But the primary time that your body takes that material and rebuilds is when you sleep. So sleep is like the super drug for actually moving out adipose tissue or burning that fat and building back muscle. It's the primary time that it takes place. So if you have really bad sleep or you don't prioritize sleep at all and you just like, I'll get sleep later. It's a really dumb idea because it might be the most
Love it.
important factor of your overall health is actually getting good sleep. Um,
Yeah.
and so I just wanted to stress that in if you guys want to weigh in on that.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a couple stats out there. I'm going to toss it to Luke because I'd love for Luke to speak on this however he will. But really, sleep during the stressful times and during those hard times of life, and just how you kind of prioritize or make it happen. Or, I mean, again, maybe Luke, you went without, but just kind of the impact of that and what it could have looked like if you were better rested. But sleep deprivation has been linked to a 30% increase in heart disease risk, and regular restful sleep improves mental health with a 25% lower incidence of stress in faith practicing individuals. This is according to the American Academy of Sleep and Medicine. The impact of sleep on us is it really does change our day. We know what it's like to have a bad night's rest. And when we wake up from that bad night's rest, we don't want to deal with anybody or with anything. But if we get some good sleep, it can really change our entire attitude, our perspective, and really allows us to feel better and take care of those hard things that we have to do. So I want to put this word of caution out to guys that are like me, and you can just grind and hustle and want to get things done. And maybe you've been in the place you put too much on your plate, and you're like, well, I'll cut into my sleep, things of that nature. Well, one, say no to more things. That'll help you out. And then two, prioritizing your rest could actually help you be a better husband, better father, and jump in, take care of the things you need to do. So be careful
100%.
how much you're actually going to push that off. I'm not telling you don't have a late night every now and then, but don't make it a habit of that. Luke?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the sleep conversation, I love to have because I love to sleep, but also I want to make sure I'm thinking about my kids. Like I've got 4 kids, and there's been times when like you just know that they need sleep. Like they're grumpy, they're fighting, they're miserable, there's just a lot going on. They can't do their homework, they're broke. And I think that we look at our kids like, well, obviously we just send them to bed early, and we get we prepare the evening, we make sure get them to bed early, get them to sleep, get them up on time, and life gets better. And yet we don't do that for ourselves. And for me, like I love go. When I get to bedtime, I'm like, man, if I go to sleep, I got stuff I could do. My mind's going 1,000 miles an hour. But if you don't intentionally schedule the sleep, and I know what it's like to work a couple jobs and family and priorities in church. I get that. But if you don't schedule the things that are important, and by the way, God invented sleep. He put Adam to sleep to give him a better version of Adam, right? But the concept of it is that if you don't schedule it and then make it happen, because here's the deal: if you're gonna be on TikTok or Instagram for 3 hours of your sleep time because you can't put your phone down and discipline yourself, you're gonna limit what God can do in you, through you, and for you. And then you're going to blame God for it, or you're going to blame everything else around it except for you. So I think it's just more of a conversation. If I wouldn't let my kids scroll, Instagram and TikTok for 6 hours in their bedtime. You shouldn't either. So just kind of being mindful. What should you do to prepare for that? And I think I'd love to hear what John has to say on that.
Yeah, these are really good points, Luke. So when it comes to like protocols, and again, it really depends on what season of life you're in and what works for you, but generally speaking, I like to prioritize setting a particular bed time as opposed to just a time to get up in the morning. So like a lot of times people will set an alarm to get up, but they don't really set any type of time when they actually go to sleep. And the more consistent you are with, I turn in at this time, the better off you're going to be. And I would say too, like, if you're just like, well, I just need to work a really late night. Again, every once in a while, I'm sure everyone has to do that. But if they can actually prioritize saying, hey, I'm going to go to bed early and just wake up earlier, type of thing, being consistent with going to bed at the same time is actually a really good thing to do. And I don't think any of us do it perfectly, but I think that's a good place to start. But then also your sequence to getting a restful night of sleep, because it's not just the amount. I got 6 hours. How much of that sleep was quality sleep? So you want to set yourself up for quality. So here's a couple of things. Is one, like your relationship to caffeine. It's probably good to at least have like, I mean, I don't know if you guys are this way. I love coffee. So I used to drink coffee like at, even in the evenings, like I would drink coffee all day. I just love coffee. And I had the rationale like, oh, hey, but I could drink a cup of coffee and go to sleep. No problem. But what I didn't realize was I could drink a cup of coffee and go to sleep right away, but the quality of my sleep was suffering. I wasn't sleeping as deep, or I would like just kind of wake myself up subtly with just because I had so much caffeine. And when I started to like say, hey, I'm going to cut caffeine off at least 8 hours. There's some studies say, 12 hours before you go to sleep. That might be difficult for most people, but at least 8 hours before you go to sleep. I usually try to cap it off at like I don't have any caffeinated coffee after lunchtime, and it helps me be able to get there. Now, trust me, there's sometimes where I'm just like I'm dragging in the afternoon like everyone else. So there's sometimes like it's
Yeah.
worth it. I'm going to have some coffee, but I'm changing my relationship. I'm trying to change my relationship to this and say instead of the coffee, maybe I just need to move and drink some water, and I can come back to this because I'm trying to prioritize that sleep, getting less blue screen exposure. So like an hour before I go to bed, I actually am not watching TV all the way up to. I like to kind of veg in the evenings like probably everyone else does, but an hour
Yeah.
before bed I try to limit my blue screen exposure because it can affect my ability to sleep. So if you start to dial in a protocol around sleep and you actually keep it pretty well, you're going to find that, oh, hey, I'm feeling more recharged. I'm feeling more mentally there, physically there. It's going to improve your workouts. So remember the domino effect here. I trained really hard. So I ate some good foods, which helped me sleep better, which helped me train better, which caused me to eat better foods, which helped me to sleep better. And if you do this over and over and over again, it's not going to change the first day or even week. But if you do this long enough, you're going to start to say, hey, wow, this cycle of really paying attention to each of these three main categories, it's changing my life. So that's what I would say to that. What's y'all's input?
Man, that's awesome.
I've been
That
talking a lot in
domino
this
effect is
episode, so I'm
100%
trying to share
true.
this.
Yeah, no, you're good, man. You're the subject matter expert when it comes to all of this. Luke and I are just absorbing like sponges, and I love it. I love how you mentioned the domino effect because it really does impact so much. And and let's just talk about some of those the other effects of it whenever it's not just the physical side of things. Guys, there is something to be said of a level of confidence given to a man who is taking care of himself. Many of you out there are obviously coming from this from a Christian perspective, and we believe in servant leadership. It's what we teach and model here at Men After God. But servant leadership doesn't mean serving to the point of neglect of yourself. If you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of others. Many of you men are out there working, grinding, doing all that you can to provide for your family. You're pulling 12s and 15s for days at a time. I know one man who works 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and it's to provide for his family, but he's running himself ragged. And look, guys, again, Luke said, like some guys working 2 jobs. I know the financial market is not good right now. I know there's a lot of things that come to play in this, and we're having to do what we have to do to survive almost. However, you've got to take care of yourself because you can only grind like that for so long before you are going to find yourself mentally and physically exhausted. And then let's talk about the ripple effect, as there's a good domino effect to taking part in what John's been telling us today. There is a negative ripple effect to ignoring and neglecting it. And it's not just in getting a beer belly or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Your relationship with your wife is going to get strained. Your children's going to get strained. Your coworkers, your relationship with yourself. There is so much at stake when it comes to stretching yourself just so thin. One of the things I've noticed coming out of a difficult season this year is how good I feel to not be in that season. And I'm noticing my relationship with my kids is better, and it's better with my wife, and I'm able to interact. I'm able to actually I feel better because I had put myself in a situation that I didn't want to be in, but felt as though I had to. And many of you can be there. And I understand for at least a season, but please know you've got to set time aside to care for yourself. Self-care, I understand in the Christian world, we always go after it and preach against for some reason or another. Look, it's not unbiblical to take a minute and take care of yourself. It's selfish if all you do is take care of yourself and no one else, but it's right to take care of yourself so you can take care of others. And Luke, I think, could speak to this in a great way, just having to deal with what he's dealt with, but still had to provide as a father and a husband.
Yeah.
And so, Luke, you want to talk about it for a minute?
Yeah, I think to go back quickly to the self-care thing, I think if you need to rebrand it as stewardship, then rebrand it as stewardship.
Hey, there
it's
you
what
go.
God's given you.
You
So
need to
it's
better
not self-care.
steward yourself. It's good.
Yeah, it's not self-love. It's not self-care. It's you're going to be held accountable to what God's given you, and God has given us all the same amount of time in our life. and has given us the opportunity to use it. I think the other concept is going to like leadership and aspect of like, how does this affect other people in your life and yourself? If you're not leading yourself, I promise you this, if you're not leading yourself and you're not being disciplined as a leader, you are limiting the influence that you could have as a leader. And I believe that a lot of people do that in the physical area. And I'm not talking about overeating and stuff, but I am talking about the concept of it's all encompassing. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Maybe not, but hey, it all connects. And so for some people, it's like, well, I'm not overeating, but I'm not drinking enough water. I'm consuming too much alcohol. Maybe I'm drinking too much soda. There's all these other things where it's like, no, take a look at what you can do, figure out what you need to do to make the adjustment. Understand that as a leader, you're an influence. People are watching you. Your kids are watching you.
Absolutely. And, with John's unfortunate departure from us for losing connection there,
I think it was something I said. I think it was something I don't know. Like, I just want to throw that out there.
Right, there it is. Luke ran him off, and everybody thought it would be me. No, it's Luke runs the guys out. This is
too direct that one time.
Yeah, you're so offensive, Luke. You're so offensive.
Again.
Guys, listen, I know John would love to be here and finish us off with this, and he might be able to jump back on before we close this out. But such great value and stuff he brings to the table. It's why he's a part of the Men After God team, and taking care of yourself physically is a matter of stewardship. Change your mindset around that, and it will change the way that you approach it. So I just want to close off with this, guys. First off, if you have any questions about anything we've said today, jump in the Men After God network over at facebook.com/group/Men-After-God and connect with John and other physical fitness experts that are there. And then and then you can also follow us on our podcast page, facebook.com/Men-After-God podcast, and be able to keep track with all the data and different things we're putting out there. And I know John would love to help you out with stuff. Hey, he made it back to us. John, welcome back.
Hey, what's strange?
So,
as I could still hear you guys, but I was disconnected, I guess.
No. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said so much.
Whatever Luke did to offend you, we're sorry. Like, that was him. That wasn't me, John. I love you, man. He's just a mean guy. I can't help it.
It happens. So,
well, John, we were just going to go ahead and sign off here, especially with your departure. Luke and I are looking at each other. Now we can't talk physical fitness now. And so, but listen, give like 30-second final thoughts, because we're going to do another episode, and we'll put it out in December of like the rest of this, because I think we only got through the 3 of the 7, because it's such good stuff here I want us to go over. But give some final thoughts of a guy, because I looked at it while we were doing this. This is launching the day before Thanksgiving. So what could a guy?
Cool.
Yeah, cool. I know, right? So get like managing it through the holidays. What's a tip you could give a guy? And be kind, John. Be kind.
Because I'll leave. I will be out of here.
Okay, so quick Thanksgiving strategy or something like that in the holidays. If you know you're gonna have a big meal, like cut back on what you're eating the rest of the day. Just maybe eat like some mainly protein, but go really low carbs, fats. This will give you a big budget later, and enjoy the day. If you go over your budget, totally fine. Next couple of days, just adjust so that you're maybe slightly under the next couple of days. And if you think about your caloric budget for the week, you could still hit your goals, enjoy the holidays, enjoy fun foods, but you did it thoughtfully, as opposed to throwing everything out and saying, oh, well, I'm not going to be good, so who cares? And you go the whole week and maybe a couple of weeks and gain 10 pounds. That's not what you want. Better to plan ahead.
That's good advice.
And you can win. So thanks, guys. We'll do another episode on fitness soon. So this will be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. John, Luke, any final comments you want to share?
I love the simplicity of just like that. Where some people just throw it out like, well, it's Thanksgiving, so I'm just going to give up today, and then they lose the month and they lose the year, right? Hey, you can enjoy the day and plan the week and still win. I love that. That's great.
Absolutely, guys. Well, hey, listen, this has been a phenomenal episode. I can't wait to get this conversation going again. But hey, happy Thanksgiving. I do hope you enjoy it. Have some great turkey, and be grateful for all that God's given you, to include your body and your health. So I do hope that you'll take that in consideration in going into this holiday season. And when you enter the new year, new me phase, and you take advantage of all of John's offers that he'll be putting out at Mind and Body Fitness, like Luke and I now have to. So, all right, guys. Hey, listen, it's been a great conversation. I can't wait to talk to you guys next time, and I hope it's a blessing to you. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you later.
Hey, guys.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Men After God podcast. We hope today's discussion has encouraged and equipped you on your journey. We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions, comments, or would like to partner with us, please reach out at support at menaftergod.net. Stay connected with our community by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/menaftergodpodcast. For deeper engagement, join our group at facebook.com/groups/menaftergod and connect with other men pursuing God's heart. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. Your feedback helps us reach more men striving to live faithfully. Until next time, stay strong in the faith and continue pursuing after God.